morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Deb Walker, and I'm the Executive Director of Citizens Project. We really appreciate you being here tonight for our School District 11 Forum. As part of our ongoing commitment to civic engagement, transparency, and accountability, Citizens Project has hosted nonpartisan election education forums and produced voter guides for the past 25 years. Today, we're proud to partner with the League of Women Voters, Artemis Women, to present the candidates who want to earn your vote for Colorado Springs School District 11 and to learn about the pros and the cons of Issue 3E. We're also grateful for School District 11 for hosting us here tonight and making available their wonderful AV and live broadcasting this. Events like this are only possible with the help of our co-sponsors and collaborators. Today we thank our sponsors, the League of Women Voters, CONO, the Council of Neighbors and Organizations, One Colorado Educational Fund, and our media sponsor, the Colorado Springs Independent. Additional sponsors include the ACLU of Colorado, Center for Nonprofit Excellence, Colorado Common Cause, COPPER, the Cultural Office of the Pikes Peak Region, First Congregational Church, and Planned Parenthood of the Rocky Mountains. Today's forum is being streamed on the district website and will be available for viewing throughout the election at citizensproject.org. So please encourage your friends and your neighbors who could not be here tonight to watch and to get further educated on this election. Ballots are going to be mailed on Monday the 16th, and they are due back on November 7th at 7 p.m. If you need to know where to drop off your ballot and you need further information about all the dirty details of this election, you can go to citizensproject.org. We also encourage you to read the Citizens Project Voter Guide that will be available in tomorrow's Colorado Springs Business Journal and next week's Colorado Springs Independent. It's remarkable, but it's also on our website. It's now my pleasure to introduce our moderator, Andrea Chalfin of KRCC, who will explain both the format and all of the rules for tonight. Andrea.
Thank you, Deb. The format for this evening is that a timekeeper will alert the candidates at 30 seconds, 10 seconds, and when their time is up. Audience members, please refrain from loud clapping or disrespectful noises. No signs in the audience. During the Q&A section, audience members may submit their own questions in writing or by tweeting #CPForum. Audience members, please pass your questions to volunteers on each side of the room. So thank you everyone for being here for this District 11 election forum. Mary Coleman is running unopposed for a 2-year term on the Board of Education and will have 2 minutes to tell us about herself and her priorities.
Hello, okay. So 2 minutes starting now. Well, thank you so much everyone for coming. I am Mary Coleman. I'm running for the 2-year term, which I'm very lucky and thankful I am running unopposed. I'll say I've spent the last year serving on the D11 school board, and I always say it takes you about a year to figure out what's going on. In your first year, you're learning, you're reading, you're trying so hard to do the right thing. So I think, you know, this coming term, I'll have a really great opportunity to be an effective leader, and I'm very excited for the district and everything that we can do in the coming years. So I'd say tonight, I'm not asking for your vote, but I am asking for your confidence in my leadership abilities. And thank you so much for being here, and thank you for hosting us.
Thank you. We are refraining from loud clapping. At this time, I'd like to invite the candidates running for the 4-year Board of Education seats to come to the table. They are seated in the order in which they appear upon the ballot. Welcome, and thank you for being here. Candidates Morgan Chavez, Julie Ott, Sean Gullickson, and Jim Mason. We will begin with opening remarks We'll have 2 minutes each to present who you are and why you're running. We will start with Morgan Chavez and move down the line. As we begin the question and answer period, we will begin with Julie and then move on down the line and so forth. So Morgan Chavez, you have 2 minutes.
Hi, everyone. Obviously, my name is Morgan Chavez. I don't know how to use this. I'm a Colorado native. I grew up in Cripple Creek. I've lived in the Springs for probably 14 years or so. I have 2 children in the district. I have one in 6th grade and one in 2nd grade. I decided to run for school board after the last election as part of my 5-point plan to keep myself sane. So I decided to be involved locally, and what a better way to do that than at your kid's school. You know, I'm already a part of their classrooms. I was at book club for my 2nd grader today, in fact, but I wanted to get involved at a larger level for that. So that's why I decided to run. I wanted to teach my daughters that we stand up for our beliefs no matter what. And so even if I don't win, I think that, the most important thing is for me that they get that message. And I know that my chances of winning are probably very slim. I know you've all have never heard of me before. I don't have the experience. I don't have the connections that some of the other candidates do. But I have a passion. I'm a very strong supporter of teachers, ESP staff. I want to be their voice. I want to be the voice of the parents in the community. I'm very excited for the opportunity to do that. So thank you all for giving me this chance to speak with you tonight.
Thank you. Julie Ott.
I'm going to stand up so people in back can see me. I'm Julie Ott, and before I get started, I'd like to say thank you to Citizens Project and League and Artemis and all the other co-sponsors up there, and also to everyone who is here this evening, because I've spent a lot of time working on voter education, and I appreciate your engagement and paying attention to candidates and issues. Again, I'm Julie Ott. I am also a District 11 parent. I have a son at Coronado, also a son who graduated in 2016, so got a couple in the system. I am involved in their schools. I've been on the PTA treasurer for 2 years, and also on the School Accountability Committee. I'm also involved in our community. Again, League of Women Voters is where that voter education work has come in, and working on issues important to democracy. And I'm also a Girl Scout volunteer, even though I have boys, and involved in my son's Boy Scout troop. I am running because I want a great education for not just my kids, but for all of our kids. I'd like to see District 11 increase its graduation rate, and I have some ideas on how to do that. I think if we address social and emotional needs of our children, as well as academics, that is one way. Another way is vocational training, increasing that for our kids, and offering some technical training as well, because that way the kids who aren't planning on going to college have a path to success in their future. And of course, all of that has to be done in a financially responsible manner. Accountability, transparency, these are important things when our money, whether we have a lot of it or a little of it, and right now, of course, most of you probably know, state of funding in education for Colorado is not what we would want. So that's why I'm running. Thank you again for being here, and I'm counting on your vote. Thanks.
Thank you, Julie Ott. Sean Gullickson.
Good evening, everybody. First, thank you all for taking the time out of your evening to come and hear from us. Any election is incredibly important, but when you're looking at education and what it means to a community, I just believe that Head and Shoulders, it's just absolutely critical to have a great team up here running this district. My name is Sean Gullickson, 25-year resident of Colorado Springs, which I've heard makes me officially an adopted native, so I'm going to claim that and hold on to it tight. I am a D11 graduate. I graduated Mitchell High School in 1999. Thank you, Yolanda Avila, Mitchell grad. And I currently have 2 students in District 11. I have a first grader over at Rudy and a freshman at Doherty High School. Largely my involvement prior to being on the board, which began last year on August 15th. I was appointed to a vacated seat and began the roller coaster that is the Board of Education. And over the last year, I've grown a huge passion for our students and our families and our responsibility to really prepare them for life after they graduate. And part of that is, workforce. My background in banking, here in the community for the last 15 years, one of the loudest voices from the business community was the lack of workforce. You know, and I believe that it's K through 12's responsibility to really develop talent and prepare our kids to fill these jobs right out of high school, whether they're on track for college or not. We really need to teach them how to master learning so that regardless of what field they're in or what scenario they're in, they can pivot and adapt and be successful in life. In addition, you know, it's just K through 12 education is just critical to our communities and our neighborhoods, and it's important that we really focus on achievement and making sure our students graduate ready to work and ready to contribute too. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Mason, Director Mason.
Thank
for
you,
his
Sean
time.
Gullickson. Jim Mason.
Thank you. Very happy to see each and every one of you. Thank you for coming out. Jim Mason, thank you, Deb. I'm seeking re-election. I cannot tell you why in 2 minutes. I will only tell you what I think is most important about why. And that is, for the last 4 years, I've had the distinct honor of working with some great folks, not just my board colleagues, but the administration, the staff, the students, parents, and guardians. We have accomplished a lot since I've been a member of the board. More importantly, we have proven to be a very high-performing board, not because we all agree, but because we have the one purpose in mind, and that is improving and increasing student achievement for our students by way of increasing educational opportunities. We've laid a great foundation. Many folks before us helped start that foundation. We have built up on it. I am seeking re-election to continue that build on that foundation. Student achievement, professional development for our staff, and increasing the parent and guardian involvement in their children's education are the three things that we have done very well, and I think we should continue. And I need to be a part of that. So thank you for your vote. And the other 10 folks you know.
Thank you, Jim Mason. So now we go to the question and answer segment, and we will begin with Julie. And this is a 30-second question. What makes you the best candidate to be on the District 11 board?
Best candidate, well, I'm happy to say there hopefully are 3 best candidates. My interest and experience in education started, of course, you know, when my kids were babies, and I've been involved. I get things done, whether it's starting a Girl Scout troop or helping with PTA that's struggling. Also, I like to make connections and offer a thoughtful discourse in our community.
Thank you, Julie. Sean Gullickson.
I believe a strong board has a very diverse group of folks with different backgrounds. With my experience in the community and local organizations and being a conduit between our classroom and our community really makes me a strong candidate, as well as my ability to work with the team and collaborate, not only with the board members and admin, but with our schools and teachers as well.
Thank you, Sean Gullickson. Next, Jim Mason, 30 seconds.
I think I'm the best candidate because I've been at this for 4 years. We've been a part of those major decisions. We've laid the foundation of which we're now beginning to build upon. I know what we need to do, have a pretty good idea of how to do it, and I think I can be instrumental in forming the team and the consensus that we need to move forward.
Thank you, Jim Mason. Next, Morgan Chavez.
I think I'm the best candidate because of my passion and my drive. Any teacher that has ever worked with me, whether it was taught me or taught my daughters, knows how involved I am. I love listening to people. I love hearing everybody. I have a very open mind. I love communication. And I think that that is what should earn me your vote.
Thank you, Morgan Chavez. The next question will be a 1-minute question. We will begin with Sean Gullickson. What do you see as the most pressing challenges for School District 11 this year, and how do you plan on addressing them?
I think as with any organization, there are things you do well, and there's things you can always improve on. You know, within District 11, clearly we have a funding gap. You know, it's not a secret, statewide and really even nationwide. But you look at our needs from an infrastructure standpoint that we need to address over time. As a part of the board in the last year, we've helped build a plan out for that. In addition, really addressing the classroom. We really need to make sure that our classrooms are prepared to educate our kids for today's world so that we can begin being proactive in building out the classroom of the future. And one of the ways we do that, again, is giving our teachers the tools that they need to be successful and thrive in the classroom so that our students are learning as well.
Thank you, Sean Gullickson. Mr. Jim Mason.
Obviously, it's the funding. Not for the sake of money, but what it all means. I remember growing up, and I've heard throughout my adult life, money doesn't buy an education. I stopped listening one day and started paying attention to the people who were saying that. Guess who they were? Folks with an education, a darn good education, by the way. If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for us. Funding brings many things to the table. It helps us compete for high quality, high performing staff. It helps us develop the infrastructure we need to support the education opportunities we must offer our children, and it also allows us to give our children, provide for our students the resources they need to actually study and learn in a high-performing environment. Funding.
Thank you, Jim Mason. Next, Morgan Chavez, 1 minute.
The biggest issue facing our school district right now is obviously funding, as has been mentioned. Without funds, it's hard to retain high-performing staff and teachers. That's the most important thing right now. I don't think we should be focusing on attracting new teachers because we have wonderful teachers. We need to be focusing on making them as strong as they can be. Strong teachers make strong students, and strong students make strong learners, and that's the only way to do it.
Thank you, Morgan Chavez. Next, Julie Ott.
Sounds like a broken record up here. Again, inadequate funding would be what I believe is what District 11 and the state of Colorado is facing. The teachers, it does make it hard to recruit and retain teachers. Also keep our school buildings in excellent shape. Overcrowded classrooms. My own children have experienced classrooms that were quite full, 36 kids in a chemistry class. It's a bit over the top when it comes to wanting enough equipment and enough chairs and tables in that one classroom. And I think that affects our teacher morale as well, and so there can be a trickle-down effect. If you cannot pay your teachers enough and your education support professionals enough, you're going to have issues, and we need to address our funding for that reason.
Thank you, Julie Ott. Next, we will have a 1-minute question, and we will begin with Jim Mason. Considering the budget, should anything be cut or reallocated? Where do you think improvements can be made? Is something not being funded that should be funded?
I believe, and I think, having served on the board now for 4 years, we do a very good job of prioritizing what is important and what provides the biggest return towards our student achievement. To answer your question specifically, we have not cut anything. We've learned how to manage better. We have not, in many cases, been able to provide what we'd like to provide in the way of education opportunities because of funding. We've been forced to make a decision. What is the absolute necessary component that our students need to be successful in this world, the 21st century? That is why funding is so important, because we're about to get to the point we can't do much better, and that concerns all of us.
Thank you, Jim Mason. Morgan Chavez.
I would hope that we can make the programs we need without making any cuts. I think some of the important things to look at right now are our support staff, our mental health, counseling departments. I think that's something that has struggled in recent years. And I think that's important that we need to address that. I also think that we need to look at the infrastructure in our schools, the technology we're providing. That has to keep up because we can't prepare students for the world if we're not giving them adequate tools to do that. And I think that's our two most important things that we need to address immediately.
Thank you, Morgan Chavez. Next, Julie Ott, 1 minute.
Thank you. I think that right now the things that are suffering will continue to suffer if there is not more funding. And it is the up-to-date technology, it's pay, and it reaches into our classroom with stunted opportunities for our kids. What if we could offer more field trips, more hands-on learning opportunities, and again, that vocational and technical training? We don't have that available in every school. If we did, that's more opportunities, more pathways to success for our kids' future. And yes, we go back to those buildings. We have cracks in the floors, leaking roofs. So there are also things that are being put off that need to be addressed there.
Thank you, Julie Ott. Next, Sean Gullickson.
Thank you. I don't think we have anything else left to cut, right? I mean, we're coming out of quite a long recession here, and I think over that time, the district has done a decent job of doing the best with the budget they have. At the end of the day, the goal is to leverage as much of every dollar in the classroom as possible and supporting our students and teachers and educating our kids. And I think rather than making cuts, I think we need to look at the utilization of our existing resources and how we're leveraging those. Can we reallocate resources? Are we not using them, or can we repurpose anything? I think looking at those types of scenarios is really key as a board, as a district. I'm a banker, so fiscal accountability and making the best of what you have has been something that is absolutely critical to me and to what I do. So thank you.
Thank you, Sean Gullickson. Next is, we will begin with Morgan Chavez. It's been said that there has been some issue with accountability or transparency with the school district. And what would you say to that, and should anything change on that matter?
In my personal education experience with my daughter's schools, the transparency and the communication has been great. And I know that's not always the case. And I hope that my door will always be open. That's what I can tell you. My door is open. I am available by text and email, and you can come to my house if you want. But I think that that's very important for the administration. It's very important for the school board. It's very important for I have daughters, children's, teachers, all the staff at the school. Everybody has to be reachable, and they have to be open to hearing what you're saying. And I think that that's something I would be very strong at.
Thank you, Morgan. Next, Julie Ott.
Will you repeat the question?
Yes, it has been said that there have been some issues with accountability or transparency with the school board. What would you say to that, and should anything change on that issue?
Okay, so we're beyond just finances. I was going to say the finances for the school board are online if anybody wants to go see them. So that's finances. And we do need that accountability and transparency. I have been an advocate for democracy in the last decade. I am all out for transparency, open meetings laws. I've experienced having to run meetings under open meetings laws. There's nothing like driving to post that agenda on a door at 6 o'clock at night when you have to meet a deadline. It's incredibly important, and I would be an advocate for that.
Thank you, Julie. Next, Sean Gullickson.
Thank you, Andrea. Well, I think most of us are aware we've been recognized for our transparency on the financial side. We do, as Julie had mentioned, everything's available online. Every meeting that we're holding is public, around these conversations. And I think for the most part, it's really critical that our Board of Education just be accessible. Again, as Julie had mentioned, and Morgan as well, I've never said no to a meeting. And if folks have any questions regarding the accountability of the decisions we're making on the board, we truly do have an open door policy. And I know that every board member that I've worked with for the last year has done the same thing. And accountability is critical. I mean, we're working with taxpayers' money. We're working with students and families. And it's important that we uphold what we commit to and make sure that we're being accountable to them. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Mason.
That is an intriguing question. I will say this. I believe District 11 is one of the most transparent and accountable districts in this state, if not this nation. I understand and I respect the observation or the perception. I respect it. Does not make it correct or accurate. I further will say this. By Colorado revised statutes, there are accountability committees and subcommittees, budget, accreditation, the District Accountability Committee. I will ask any parent, guardian, or citizen, please come out and join any committee, subcommittee you would like. Please. And if you for sure have a question on accountability, you must, because that's the only way you will be able to answer your question or your concern.
Thank you. We will begin with Julie Ott next. 30 seconds. What do you think District 11 is doing particularly well right now?
What is D11 doing particularly well? I went to a lot of open houses this fall just to visit, and I have to tell you that the welcoming smiles and teachers and administrators seem to be making a great effort to make children feel welcome and to make our schools like academic homes for our kids. There are a lot of great choices in D11, and I think that the teachers are in this district are fantastic.
Thank you. Sean Gullickson.
That's one of the things that has really fed my passion for this district in the last year, were some of those things that we're doing really well. How many of you guys are familiar with the R.J. Wack campus today? Absolutely, some of you raise your hand. We're really doing some groundbreaking work, and I don't have enough time to highlight all of that, but I would encourage you to reach out to Dan Hoff and schedule a tour and really get educated in what we're doing on that campus. In addition, we continue to be nationally recognized for our work in Next Gen Learning through the Next Gen Learning Challenges grant. We continue to pioneer that work and are highlighted across the country with visits from educators in several states on a continued basis.
Thank you. Jim Mason.
Three things. First of all, we are improving and increasing the opportunities, education opportunities for our students, and student achievement is moving in the right direction. We're very successful in some areas, we need work in others, but we have a plan and we're on a glide path that is up. Second, professional development of our staff. We are investing in our staff. You have to. And as a result, they're more confident, they're more qualified, they have increased their skills. Third, see me after this.
Thank you. Morgan Chavez.
I think the best thing that D11 is doing right now is they're creating lifelong learners. They're creating children who are passionate about learning, not just what are the details, how do you get that process? And I think that's something that the D11 staff is really excellent at. And I think that should be everybody's goal, is to create lifelong learners.
Thank you. 1 minute for this next question. We will begin with Sean Gullickson. How do you ensure a safe environment for students, faculty, and staff that's inclusive and tolerant? And how do you respond to actions otherwise, be it bullying, hate incidents, or other? Are there any changes that need to be made?
1 minute might not be enough because this is a significant issue in education today, not just in D11, but really across the country. We have teachers who aren't equipped to deal with behavioral issues that they see in the classroom, and we have schools that aren't equipped to deal with it either. When we talk about 3E, which you're going to hear about later in the MLO, and our plan to put senior resource officers as well as counselors in our schools, the they're educated in dealing with these sorts of issues. I think that's critical to allowing our teachers to be freed up to do what they do best, which is educate and prepare our students, again, for graduation, that life after school. So we have a lot of work to do in that area, and it is certainly one that we have some folks behind, such as our Awareness Matters series that Corey Notstein recently put together, which has been absolutely amazing. Hopefully we'll have a continuation of that we'll see more of in the community. But we do have some work to do there, and I look forward to working with our board and our administration to really addressing that and getting creative and innovative in how we do it.
Thank you. Jim Mason.
You will not have to wait until after this. Number 3, safe and secure environment. Safe and secure environment. That is what we're working very hard to do every day. And all indications are we're doing very well. But you know, that's not good enough. You know why? Because every day it's a new threat. Every day someone thinks of another way to create havoc within any environment, not just a learning environment. So we have to be vigilant. We got to stay on top of that one. The other thing that I'd like to say is this. By having a high-performing staff, we're able to alleviate a lot of other strains and other problems and other situations. Because we have students who are excited about learning and teachers who know how to get students excited about learning and to make learning challenging, you bring up the entire environment and everything becomes a lot safer and secure.
Thank you. Morgan Chavez.
I think D11 has a good start. I think what I'd like to see from what I've heard talking to different teachers in different schools at all levels in the district is that it's not everywhere. It's not the same everywhere. It depends on what principal you talk to. It depends on who's handling the problem. And I think that's an issue. I think we need to make sure that everything is standardized in regard to that. I'd like to see some inclusion training, some sensitivity training at age-appropriate levels in all levels of school to make sure that we're talking about issues, making people feel comfortable. I think that the school district and the city has a long way to go with making LGBT students feel included and safe. And I think that should be one of our priorities, is making everyone in school feel like that's where they belong.
Thank you. Julie Ott.
Thank you. Every school should be a safe school, and every school should be welcoming and inclusive, and that's it. Yes, for the LGBTQA kids, and no matter your gender, the color of your skin, they just have to be. That may require additional professional development. It's also, for our kids, I think, again, addressing those social and emotional needs. They're growing that way as well as academically. We need to let them know what's okay. Hate is not okay. There's no question there. There's no morality win there. And I think we continue to stress, as Sean said, the suicide awareness matters, and have those strong policies in our district, and Safe to Tell. Safe to Tell is a great program, and we need to keep that active in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Have we gone through them all? Yes, I believe so. Speaking of, there have been an increased frequency of youth suicides recently. How can the district better meet the needs, the social and emotional needs of students? And we will allow a minute for that. We'll begin with Sean Gullickson.
Kind of continuation. I mean, you know, part of our funding and MLO request this year is to help our schools and provide more counselors and programs for our students. And, you know, part of that is the front line of defense for this are our teachers and our students. You know, I think that friends and peers of our students can be educated in how to identify certain risks, and our teachers certainly spend more time with many of our kids than most of us do, right? And so creating more pathways for parents to be more engaged with the classroom and our teachers, and feel comfortable forming a partnership so that they're communicating well, and identifying any issues that may be at risk and working together to address them, because it begins at home. You know, at school we can help identify it, but we do have to work closer with families as well and providing them opportunities, even if it's in our schools, to really get counseling and help support their student and address those needs. But first and foremost, creating more awareness around the issue, and I think that we're doing really great things in D11 to do that right now. So,
Thank you. Jim Mason.
I believe District 11 is probably a leader in that area. We have consciously and thought this through and resourced it. A lot of the behavior scientists, a lot of the social, and as Sean highlighted, part of the mill levy request is additional money to help resource professionals, behavioral science professionals who can help us, help our students, help parents and guardians to help their children. It's heartbreaking, and we cannot stick our heads in the sand on this issue. We will have to lead and help parents and guardians and our citizens, our community, figure out the best way to reduce suicides and to prevent them altogether. And it will not happen overnight, but we're on the right track. We're on the right track.
Thank you. Morgan Chavez.
I think it's imperative that we really do address this issue. You know, one child committing suicide is too many. We have to make sure that we're working with parents, that we are having programs that show signs and teach people what to look for, and not just teachers, not just parents. We need to teach the bus driver, and we need to teach the lady who collects the lunch cards, and everybody in the school needs to know this. Their friends need to know it. You can't place too much stress on this. It's so important because one dead child's too many.
Thank you. Julie Ott.
Thank you. As Morgan said, one child is too many. And the issue is, I believe, it's involving our kids as part of a community. It is making them smart, again, about their social and emotional needs, and inclusivity. And as well, the professional development, whether it is for our teachers or the education support professionals, and reaching out to families, letting them know what's at stake, and having these great programs that District 11 does offer, and that age-appropriate education for our kids as well.
Thank you. And we will soon be transitioning into the audience question and answer period. So please, if you do have some questions, make sure you write them down and turn them in so that we can include your questions. You can also tweet them with the hashtag CPForum. Next, we will begin with Jim Mason. 1 minute. What is your position on public school choice, and should taxpayer dollars be used for private school choice?
Choice. I support choice. I believe that, and I think, having lived a life now, that choice helps parents decide and prepare while mentoring and coaching their child towards a successful career. And we owe that. We owe that to our parents. We owe that to our students, our children. Your second question was voucher. 30 seconds, all I need is 3 seconds. I do not support vouchers.
Thank you. Morgan Chavez.
I love school choice. Both of my kids are on a choice permit right now. They always have been. I think that it's wonderful that parents have that option. I wish they didn't have to have that option. I wish every school was offered every program that every kid needs. And I don't know that that's going to be a reality, but I'm happy that parents have that choice because obviously I've used it. School vouchers, absolutely not. I think public money funds public schools. Public money does not fund private schools. There can be no exception to that.
Thank you. Julie Ott.
I think District 11 has some great choices, straight up. And it is a matter of finding the right school for your child. I understand that because I have also exercised that right to choice across town. And not every school can be perfect for every kid, but like Morgan said, ideally, every school is a great school offering a well-rounded education for our kids. That should be the way it is. Beyond that, no to the voucher question. I agree, our tax dollars are for public schools, and that's 30 seconds, sorry. Don't need 30 seconds to say that. But again, every school in D11 ideally is a great choice, and we have charter choices as well. We know that. We don't need more schools. We just need to adapt innovations and allow our teachers to teach our kids and bring great programs to them within the schools.
Thank you. Sean Gullickson?
I do support choice. I believe competition is very healthy. I think that giving our families options and opportunities that best fit their kid is critical to, again, catering to each child's learning style. At the end of the day, our goal in our schools is that, choice is less and less an issue because our schools are performing well and are educating our students well in every category. And so as our buildings and our leaders in our buildings out there look at what they're offering, knowing that their neighborhoods could choice out, to me, that competition should push them harder and strive harder for greater success in their schools. As far as vouchers, public tax dollars should stay in public schools. I don't support the vouchers.
Great. Next, we will begin with Morgan Chavez, and we will have 30 seconds for this question, which is, what role should the arts play in public education?
I think arts education is pivotal to having a well-rounded education. My daughters my older daughter doesn't go there anymore, but she went to Stratton. They have a wonderful arts program there at the elementary level. I think it just gets better as D11 students get older, and I think that's imperative to having a well-rounded education. You can't be a successful, well-rounded student without the arts.
Thank you. Julie Ott.
Arts is critical, I believe, to education. Yes, to a well-rounded education, but it also engages our students. Not every student is going to be a great math student or English student. Arts is a way for them to engage, be successful, and it's a cultural experience as well. And I appreciate arts and music in our schools.
Thank you. Sean Gullickson.
So if you go to West Middle School, second floor, north hallway, there's a wall of tiles. On that wall, you'll see a tile from Sean Gullickson in 1993. The absolute worst piece of art you'll ever see in your life. And even for a kid like me, it was critical to have that creative thinking and arts accessible. And, even for my own daughters, it's something they're very passionate about, and I couldn't imagine not having arts available in our schools. It is critical. We're in Arts Awareness Month, and I believe as a board, we just adopted a resolution for that recently, as we do every year. So,
Thank you. Jim Mason.
The arts and music are crucial to producing a valuable, redeeming citizen. You cannot have a holistic individual without an appreciation for art, music, and everything that it conjures up and forces you to come to grips with in your life. By the way, District 11, throughout all the tough times, have always maintained and provided a wonderful, productive art and music program.
Thank you. We will transition into audience questions. Certainly, if you think of some, please do write them down, and we will try and get to them. We will begin with Julie Ott. We have 1 minute for this question. How can you increase parent or guardian involvement?
Well, as a parent, I think it starts with an invitation and outreach. Parent-teacher conferences are coming up, and I hope a lot of parents take that opportunity. It's letting parents know what we need, and again, it comes to that invitation. District 11 also has an app now that allows parents to stay engaged and keep up to date on everything from the latest D11 rumor to if a school is having an open house or something. So there are opportunities there as well. In the younger, many of us who are parents know, it's much easier to have that student engagement when you're younger because you're going on field trips with your kids. But even at the high school level, there are extracurricular activities to support and ways to be engaged, like the school accountability committees and the PTAs.
Thank you. Sean Gullickson.
As Julie said, it starts with an invite, and I would argue it's not just with our families and parents, but it's our neighborhoods as well. You know, our schools are hubs of our community. Our doors should be open to those folks in our neighborhoods and the surroundings so that they can be engaged with our students in the work that they're doing. And again, as Julie had mentioned, creating platforms such as an app that I use on a day-to-day basis with my students is critical. And then it's the small things. I think last year I'd say I'd trademarked the term parent-teacher conference reform, and that was because I believe that parents and the students should be getting more out of that time that they have within the classroom with the teachers. And one of the ways we're doing that, or some of our schools are doing that I'm excited about, particularly are student-led parent conferences. Meaning when I go into my daughter's classrooms at Doherty here in a couple weeks, she's leading that conference and that discussion around her performance. And I think that's a critical way for parents to be more engaged with their student that would then bleed over and carry into the home as well. So it's little things like that we can continue to do well and add on. So,
Thank you. Jim Mason.
Parents and guardian involvement is really one of my 3 top things that I'm concerned about and work toward. We have to really reach out to parents and guardians. We have to remember we were parents and guardians of young folk going through school, and we must remember what it was like sometimes. Sometimes it's daunting, sometimes it's intimidating, sometimes the day is so busy. We have to respect that, yet at the same time, reach out to parents and be welcoming. Send an invitation, and we have to have periodic, routine communication, not only from the teachers, but from the principals to parents and guardians. We have to let them know you are a part of this process. As your child matriculate through the educational process, you are invaluable, and we need your help. And I believe parents will step up, but we have to help them step up.
Thank you. Morgan Chavez.
I think we have to operate on the premise that all parents want their children to have a good education, and all parents want to be involved. You know, it's not feasible for all parents to do that sometimes. They work while their kids are in school, and you know, I think we need to provide more. I think each school needs to reach out and provide numerous opportunities during numerous times of the day, whether it's before school or after school or late into the evenings. I've taken papers home to staple and color, and you know, from my daughter's teachers, that's something that's a way that I was involved while, you know, I was working nights. And so that's something I think that we need to focus on. I think that all parents do want to be involved. You know, they want their children to have a good education, and I think they just need to know that the opportunity is there.
Thank you. Next question, we will begin with Sean Gullickson. We have 1 minute. How do you think you can get non-parent citizens involved with the schools?
well, it's creating more pathways between our community and our classrooms. It's you know, understanding what the needs of our students and the education that they need from a real world standpoint, and then reaching out to the community and the business community to bring them into the classroom to help with the resources they can provide and the expertise that they have, because it's not only our students learning in that instance, it's also our teachers. You know, and again, going back to my last answer, our schools are hubs of our neighborhoods. We have hundreds of people living around in walking distance of our schools that don't have students involved. All of them enjoy art. All of them enjoy music. All of them enjoy project-based learnings by our students. And so sharing those activities and those open houses through different avenues that we have, such as our partnership with Copper and otherwise, to get that information in front of the community is critical, and really just being welcoming to those folks who want to take that time to come enjoy our schools.
Thank you. Jim Mason.
I believe that there are various ways that we can help non-parent and guardians to be involved in our district. One of which we're doing in District 11 right now, and that is working with the YMCA. We have a program that a couple of our middle schools are taking part in, where the students will go to the Y after school and parents get involved. And when people see our students who may not any longer have children in school and look at the example that these young folk are setting, it helps instill confidence and pride in everyone. We are working to get more volunteer opportunities for our students, service type opportunities. When students participate out in public, the public is watching, and that example that they're setting is what makes the public want to get involved with the district. Everyone wants to be on a winning team. District 11 is a winning team. We may not always do a very good job of advertising it, and we're working on that.
Thank you. Morgan Chavez.
I think the way you get non-parents involved is the same way you get parents involved. You build that bridge, and you invite them to the school. You invite them to chocolate art night, and you invite them to the school play, and you invite them to the football game. And I know D11 has a program now where senior citizens can get a pass to attend sporting events, and I think that's a great start. I think that we should continue things like that. I'd love to see our students out in the community volunteering with all kinds of different organizations. Whoever will have them, let's make use of that. Let's make that bridge. Let's build the bridge and keep that going. And get parents involved, get aunts and uncles involved, get your neighbor involved. I think that you have to have the community. You know, there's no such thing as other people's children.
Thank you. Julie Ott.
Again, I think it starts with an invitation, as has been mentioned up here. The Senior Pass program that District 11 has to invite seniors in, I think that's a very original concept and brings people to events that District 11 is having. Advertising, getting the word out about community events. If there is a chocolate art night, I am there. So, you know, there are different events will appeal to different people. And indeed, having volunteer opportunities for our kids, it's about that communication two-way. We have a need, the community has a need. Let's make connections, build those relationships, and it should be a win-win.
Thank you. The next question, we will begin with Jim Mason. 1 minute. How do we improve graduation rates?
Everything that we've talked about this evening. Parents and guardians' involvement, producing education opportunities that in fact challenge our students, challenge our children. Probably more important than anything else, we have got to make sure the resources are at kindergarten, 3rd grade, 8th grade. Because statistics show that those are critical age and critical years. Yes, tough. To answer your question specifically, to improve graduation rates, we've got to get everything operating on all 8 cylinders, and we have to be focused on our objectives, clear objectives, and student achievement is one of them.
Thank you. Morgan Chavez.
I think the easiest way to improve graduation rates is get programs that kids want to do. You know, kids who are going to college are going to graduate high school. We know that. We know that we have a path for them. Let's make sure we have a path for kids who aren't going to college. Let's have some programs that teach auto mechanics and food preparation and whatever else you can think of. Let's have paths that aren't specifically geared all the way for everybody going to college. Not every child is going to go to college, and that's important and it's okay. And I think we need to embrace that, and I think once we do that, graduation rates are gonna go up. I think that's number one.
Thank you. Julie Ott.
I think it starts with family involvement, as Jim has talked about tonight. Preschool, free preschool for anybody who needs it would be ideal. Again, there are funding issues to be addressed here. Kindergarten, full-day kindergarten would be ideal. Early literacy programs and meeting kids where they are. If a child cannot read at a 4th grade level, when they're in 4th grade, we need to support that child. There's a number, in high school I can speak to anyway, there are help centers and tutorial centers for our kids. We need to make sure that that's being addressed at every level, no matter what grade you are. Making our kids understand, again, their social and emotional needs, not just of themselves, but of each other. That will help, I believe, our graduation rates. And again, the vocational and technical training, so that kids see options in their future, have hope for their future, and an idea of where they can grow into the future world.
Thank you. Sean Gullickson?
Yes, absolutely. And much of, again, what's been stated up here already. There's no one silver bullet, but it is a variety of things that we can do, such as addressing the whole child and the social and emotional well-being of each of our families. In addition, it's equipping our classrooms for success. It's understanding what our teachers need to thrive or to be successful and our students to thrive. And then it's also recognizing that we each have unique learning styles and giving each, having a pathway for each child to understand how they learn, but also a platform for them to learn, and building that out for our schools. And what all of that does at the end of the day is going to empower our students to explore what they're passionate about. At the end of the day, if you're passionate about something, you're going to work harder and you're going to work for it, and you will graduate high school and you will have an opportunity to be successful. We are here to develop talent. Again, I say that, but if we do that right, our students will be passionate, and they will graduate high school, and we will increase our graduation rates.
Thank you. The next question, 30 seconds. We will begin with Morgan Chavez. What is your position on recognizing high school valedictorians?
I was a high school valedictorian, so I kind of like it. Right? I think that's okay. I think people who worked hard enough to be the valedictorian kind of deserve that recognition. I know that's a lot of schools are shifting away from that, and I don't agree with that. I think if you worked hard and you earned it, you should be recognized for it.
Thank you. Julie Ott.
I prefer the Latin system because 2 kids can work just as hard as each other, and neither one deserves to be penalized for one sick day or the fact that they took PE and couldn't climb a rope. Our kids work hard, many of them too hard for the grades. It can become a student world out there, and we want to be more supportive, I believe, of that and recognize success on a greater level.
Thank you. Sean Gullickson.
Well, obviously, I support the Latin honor system, as we just voted to change that just last school year. And I'll add that that change affects my own daughter, who is a freshman this year, which is when the Latin honor system takes effect. I support that because even in that system, we're recognizing folks who are at the top of their class. We're just simply changing the label that they're graduating with. A lot of students work very hard to get the GPAs that they graduate with, and if we can help them get honors in doing that, or honor each student in their hard work, I think it's important we do that. But again, we're not taking the valedictorian away, we're changing the label. They're still being recognized as the top of their class, so thank you.
Thank you. Jim Mason.
Thank you. Well, obviously, I support the Latin system because I voted that we move away from valedictorian and salutatorian. For one reason, not enough time to peel the onion totally back. However, we should understand what we're trying to do and what we want to do is maximize every student's potential, academic potential, from day one until the day they graduate. If, in fact, Jim Mason believes as a 9th grader, I screwed up so bad, or as a 10th grader, I'm not even in the running to be number 1, think about that impact. Thank you.
The next question is, we will begin with Julie Ott. 30 seconds. How do you define student achievement, and what plans do you have to improve it?
Student achievement, I think, comes down to a student's feeling self-worth. and about their own success. Children can have challenges that we don't know about, and a student doesn't have to be at the top of their class to be successful. So again, I think it comes down to that they feel they made a great effort, that they become a lifelong learner, and that they have a well-rounded education. I don't know if we're going in the direction of test taking here, but I don't believe it just depends on one test.
Thank you. Sean Gullickson.
I agree. I mean, a student's, being prepared for life after K through 12 education can't be measured by a test score. I think there's a lot that goes into feeding their passion. And to me, my daughter or any other student walks in and just shares an idea that they want to explore and research and build something. I think to us, to me, that is educating them in how to become a master of learning, as well as having the ability to adapt to their environment and be successful. We do need to address, performance and scoring. That's how we're measured today. I believe we're heading in the right direction, so thanks.
Thank you. Jim Mason.
Is there enough time to ask the question again?
Again, how do you define student achievement, and what specific plans do you have to improve this?
Various components to measuring student achievement. Specifically, I think part of that assessment has to be what the teacher reports and what they think. There is a degree of testing that has to be a part of it. More important than all of that, I think there is a part that parents and guardians play in this assessment. You put all of that together, and I believe you can pretty well measure if the student is on course to be academically successful or not.
Next, we have Morgan Chavez. Thank you. Sorry.
I think student achievement, obviously right now, is using a lot of grades and test scores. I don't know that you can totally do away with that because you've got to have something on paper, right? But I think more importantly, you have to be able to measure a student's passion. And how do you do that? You've got to have teacher input, you've got to have parent input, you've got to have the student's input. Because that's the only way, if the student feels successful, then they're more likely to be successful.
Thank you. The next question. Would you support year-round school? 30 seconds. We begin with Sean Gullickson.
No. Here's why. I believe that, for me personally, and in a lot of families I know, that's time for my kids and I to invest in our family and to have that break from, at the end of the day, we're given vacation from our jobs for a reason. You need to have that break so that you can center and refocus. And we're talking about the social and emotional well-being of our kids. Well, that time to invest in their family and to spend together is critically important to that. Although year-round school would be great for learning, I could tell you, but I prefer to have those breaks with my family. So,
Thank you. Jim Mason.
I support year-round education. What that looks like is yet to be determined because we're putting the horse in front of the cart. It's a great question if you have nothing else to do to sit around and theorize and philosophize. The truth of the matter is there are resources that are very, very serious. There are considerations for the type of students, for the parents and the guardians. There's considerations for the community. I support year-round education. I suggest that we first figure out how to do that.
Thank you. Morgan Chavez.
I would be open to looking at year-round school. I think a common misconception is that year-round school is year-round school. You get breaks. You get 3 weeks off here, 2 weeks off here, and I think that's a neat learning environment. I think that provides a unique way to structure things. I think I don't think it's feasible in Colorado because most of our schools don't have air conditioning, which would make it hard to educate kids in the summer. But I would be open to considering that because you do get enough breaks, and I think that would help with summer brain drain. And then your parents won't go crazy on Christmas and summer breaks.
Thank you. Julie Ott.
I'm certainly willing to have that conversation. I'm open to the idea. Yes, there would be presumably be breaks built in. I know teachers in some schools are on fall break now. They have a fall break and they just go longer in the summer. And so if it would allow some additional breaks. I'm a data person. I'd like to see information on it. If it's been done before, I think we should take a look at that and see how it impacts the children and impacts the family and the teachers, the professionals in the field.
Thank you. One final question from the audience. This person wrote one of the most important questions for the future. What is the answer to better education? You have 1 minute. We'll begin with Jim Mason.
You always begin with me on a really tough question. That's fine. I'm experienced. Complex question, simple answer. We will have to take into account the student's academic potential. We will need to provide the resources that can assess that and then address it appropriately. We will need to have parents and guardians involved to a point that they're literally helping do homework and checking homework, not when it's easy, but every single day. Now, what does that really look like? It looks like a learning environment whereby our teachers and our staff can challenge our students in an exciting and rigorous manner, and they have the resources by which to do that, and we have routine communication with parents and guardians.
Thank you. Morgan Chavez.
I think this question has been touched on a little bit tonight. I think a better education is finding every child's path, every child's passion, and making sure that they have a way to complete that. If you can touch every child and make sure that they feel like they're being educated, make sure that they feel a path to success, then you've achieved a better education.
Thank you. Julie Ott.
I think a lot of what we have touched on tonight it's all relevant. It's starting with that family involvement, it's being inclusive, welcoming, meeting children where they are, letting our teachers teach in a professional manner to meet those kids where they are, and adapt programs to those kids' needs in that classroom, in that school, and ideally we're involving the community as well.
Thank you. Sean Gullickson.
Yeah, we've touched a lot on it, increased engagement, allowing our teachers to feel empowered to pursue their passion in educating kids and providing them the resources they need to do that. And again, going back to understanding that we all learn differently and really creating a very diverse portfolio of platforms for our students to do that, I think is absolutely essential in a better education. And giving them real-world experiences while they're in our schools, not letting them graduate and then walking into the workforce blind, giving them opportunities to shadow with local companies and local businesses and organizations to start to build that portfolio and that confidence that they can compete in today's workforce, which would intrinsically inspire them to learn more and master learning. So.
Thank you. We'll have closing remarks from the candidates, and we are back to the beginning. So candidates have 1 minute each to present your closing remarks. We'll begin with Morgan Chavez.
When I started out my trip on campaigning for school board, it's been eye-opening. I think that I really would be able to help the district. I can channel my passion. I don't have some of the endorsements that the other candidates do, and that's okay. I have some endorsements of some pretty important people in my life, some lifelong educators that are in the district. I think that's where my passion is. I want to be their voice. I want to be the community's voice. I want to be the parents' voice. I don't think parents know how loud their voice can be within the district, and I think that's a really important thing that I'm learning and that I hope to continue to expand on. So I really thank you for your time today. I would appreciate your vote, obviously. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Julie Ott.
Okay, well, again, in my nerdy, democracy-loving way, thank you all again for being here, because I've worked on civic engagement for so long, and getting out the vote for so long. It's really important to me that you all took the time, and I appreciate that. I am interested in running again. I think that last question touched on best education. What do we have to offer to our kids? And it is about giving them hope, letting them know that we care about them. They are included in their education. They have a voice. Our teachers have a voice. And offering them opportunities beyond high school, that no matter if they're going to college or looking for a job immediately upon graduation, they can find something and be engaged also in our communities. And again, yes, I'm Julie Ott, and I am counting on your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean Gullickson.
Thank you. You know, I was appointed again in the last year, you know, being appointed on August last year, August 15th. I have learned more in the last 12 months, 14 months now, than possibly the previous 10 years, and in a very fast time. But most importantly, something happened. It was something that happened over the summer. And I've shared this story with a couple of people, but I went from having 2 kids to 28,000 kids. And your kids are my kids. And when I drive down the street in the summer and I see some students doing a lemonade stand, I don't just drive by. I see that, you know what, let me support our kids. You know, for me, that's grown a passion to be here. I've brought value to the board, and I certainly can have an impact on this district. And I would appreciate your vote, and thank you again for being here tonight and taking time out of your evening to listen to us. So appreciate it. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me at gullicksonford11@gmail.com.
Thank you. Jim Mason.
Thank you, and thank you all for hosting and sponsoring this and putting it together. It's invaluable to our community. Education is invaluable to our society. And one of the most wonderful things about serving on District 11 School Board is you get to help people. Many of them you will never really meet. Many of them you don't know. However, you're making a difference in their life. We must exploit the vast potential of District 11. By doing so, we will prepare our children to take this society to the next level. And in doing so, we will leave a legacy that each and every one of us will be proud of. This is really a very daunting task, but is a task that is worth living. And I'm proud to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Please feel free, audience, to clap for all the candidates. If we can have the ballot issue speakers, please come to the table. Thank you, everyone. We are now shifting attention to the mill levy override question 3E on the ballot. The ballot language is not on the screen. There it is. The ballot. The ballot language is being projected on the screens around the room. If approved, the question would increase Colorado Springs School District property taxes by $42 million annually to fund educational needs, including competitive teacher pay, modernizing buildings, upgrading and replacing outdated technology, and improving student safety by adding a resource officer at every middle school. We invited parties representing the pro and con side of the issue to present tonight. The con side declined to attend. In their absence, Deb Walker from Citizens Project will read the Tabor notice and a statement that was submitted by the party on record opposing this issue. Each person has 4 minutes to present their side. We will begin with Anthony Carlson from Friends of D11. He has 4 minutes to present the case in support of this measure.
Great schools are the heart of any good community. The first thing that new homeowners will ask realtors when they move into a neighborhood is, where are the great schools? Where can I live to be close to the great schools? There's studies that show that great schools are directly tied to reducing the crime rates and making our neighborhoods safer. And great schools are one of the things that businesses look to when they're looking where they want to locate to and when they want to open. And workforce readiness and knowing that there's a great K through 12 system in place in those communities is one of the first things they look for. But more importantly, a vote for yes on 3E is a vote for our kids. What I can tell everybody in this room is that if the 25,000 kids who were students in D11 all had a say over the next few weeks of whether this would get passed or not, there wouldn't be a need for a campaign. Because every single kid wants to have access to great teachers. They want to be able to learn in a classroom that is vibrant and comfortable. And they want to be learning on today's technology, knowing that once they're done with their education career, that they're going to be prepared for the workforce. And they also want to be able to learn in a safe classroom where they don't have to worry about the outside world, but they get to focus on what's in front of them, their teachers and their opportunity to learn and get a great education. And one of the great things is 3E is designed specifically to focus on those kids and their education. It's an investment directly into the classrooms, it's an investment in teachers, and it's an investment in our kids. This key funding is going to go into 4 critical areas tonight that I wanted to talk about. Number 1, it's going to go right back into making sure that we can keep the best and brightest teachers right here in D11. I'm sure you all have seen, but over the past few months, the local press has covered the teacher shortage in Colorado. There's currently a teacher shortage of over 3,000 teachers in the state of Colorado, which means that competition to keep those great teachers here is also at an all-time high. And D11 has some of the best educators in the entire state. Sean Wybrant, he's the Colorado Teacher of the Year. He teaches at Palmer High School. D11 also has the Colorado History Teacher of the Year. And over at the Roy J. Wasson Academic Campus, one of the teachers over there in the trades is the ProStart Teacher of the Year, which acknowledges teachers who do great work in the trades. And here recently, the Department of Education appointed a teacher from D11 to be a fellow, one of only 7 in the entire country. And so we need to make sure we're keeping those great teachers right here in D11 and that they're teaching our kids and they're not being recruited away to Denver or Pueblo or Grand Junction or Boulder. We need to make sure they're right here in our classrooms. And this funding is going to go right back into the investment, making sure those great teachers are staying right here. Number 2 is infrastructure. If you're in this room and you grew up with the Andy Griffith Show, you grew up with our schools. The average school building in D11 is over 50 years old. And you might not think that investing in infrastructure is necessarily an investment in the classroom, but it is. Because what I can tell you is when you go into West Elementary and middle school and you don't have air conditioning, your kids are learning in classrooms that in the summer and in the early fall and the late spring are 85 to 90 degrees, it's hard for those kids to focus. And I don't know about you, but if I had the option as a teacher to teach in a district where my classroom is going to be 90 degrees versus going to another district where I get air conditioning, it's kind of an easy choice. And so investing in infrastructure, making sure we can keep those buildings maintained and up to date. Number 3 is technology. The last time a mill levy like this was passed was the year 2000. This event tonight is being live streamed through Facebook. Facebook wasn't invented in 2004. It's probably being streamed through a smartphone, which didn't hit the market until 2007. And so literally we're going through this entire technological revolution and we haven't given our schools the access to the opportunity to expand technology access to our kids. And the last thing that this funding is going to go to is making sure that our schools remain a safe and vibrant place to learn. I'm sure everybody's familiar with what happened at Doherty a couple weeks ago, where there was an altercation and there was some gunshots fired across the street from Doherty. The reason that local law enforcement and paramedics were able to respond to that scene so quickly was because of a resource officer who saw it happen, reported it within 5 minutes, there was law enforcement there to help out that situation. Our middle schools right now don't have access to those resource officers. If there was an incident similar to that that happened in our middle schools, it would take a lot longer for there to be a response to that. We need to make sure that our kids are safe regardless whether you're at Doherty High School, Russell Middle School, or Chipeta Elementary School. The last thing that people want to know is, well, how is this going to affect my pocketbook? The great thing is the district has created a plan that is responsive to taxpayers. Next year, for a home at $200,000, it's $14 a month. But as the district pays down debts ahead of schedule, I might add, by the year 2022, 2023, it's $6 a month for that same home. Voting yes on 3E is an investment in our community. It's an investment in making sure our kids have the same access to education as kids in D12, D20, D49 in Denver. And it's an investment in making sure that Colorado Springs is prepared for the next 20 years going forward. Thank you so much.
Now, excuse me, now Deb Walker from Citizens Project, one of the presenters of tonight's forum, will read a statement submitted by the Con side. Citizens Project does not represent the opinion of the Con.
D11 lost its 2016 election for a $15 million tax increase and more later. It also lost its demand for a $390 million debt repayment for, quote, safety concerns, unquote. They have fixed their phony, quote, safety, quote, issues? No. D11 now wants $42 million yearly tax hike for pay raises, growing in future years. They didn't get their voters' message in 2016 and want to badger us each year to wear us down. They want more money from struggling families. They get 70% of the average property tax bill, but it is, quote, not enough, end quote. It's never enough. Most government school employees are not certified teachers. The average total yearly cost per student is over $12,000. With 25 per classroom, that's over $300,000 in taxpayer spending per classroom. If average teacher pay is $50,000 for 9 months of work and shorter work days, where does the other $250,000 go? Bureaucrats, pensions, pay hikes, waste, bonuses, vehicles, debt service, field trips, etc. That spells, quote, bad priorities, end quote. Student enrollment, stagnant for decades. D11 is closing schools, not building them. Why? Student flight. We have multiple school districts in Colorado Springs, D20, D49, D2, etc., with multiple layers of administration because people don't want their children to go to D11. The main problem with D11 is it thinks educational quality is just a matter of employee pay raises and greater pensions. Education is not a commodity that can be bought by throwing more money at it. We are sending to college many graduates who need remedial reading, writing, and math. Paying more does not mean getting better. D11 wastes our tax money on TV ads telling us how great it is, though only a small percentage of viewers have children of school age. Its union opposes parental choice, so students are stuck in failing schools. They spend their time lobbying for more state aid, more state and local ballot issues, and one-party state and national political choices. Their current near monopoly will never provide choice and competition. D11's only idea is millions more in taxes to benefit their system, but not children, parents, and taxpayers. We need to start over with a system that sees students as people to educate, not a source of tax dollars. Saying everything D11 does is, quote, for the children, end quote, is not only false, but cynical. D11 holds little children captive for the purposes of enriching D11. Vote no on 3E.
Thank you, Mr. Bruce.
Because no one agreed to attend to represent the Con, we will now be finalizing the formal part of the forum at this time. We do encourage audience members to stay and ask their questions to the candidates in the room and also to those representing the ballot question. If there is anyone in the room who would like to answer citizen questions against the ballot issue, we certainly encourage you to step forward. Thank you for coming out tonight and participating in our democracy.